Meet the new boss, not the same as the old one. And for just the second time in our history, the man in the suit isn't the Prime Minister.
I have just been to Buckingham Palace, where Her Majesty the Queen has asked me to form a new government, and I accepted.
So, what is the state school-educated vicar's daughter promising us?
When it comes to opportunity, we won't entrench the advantages of the fortunate few. We will do everything we can to help anybody, whatever your background, to go as far as your talents will take you.
Which is all very comforting, but we just had a vote that brings with it something of a national challenge.
We are living through an important moment in our country's history. Following the referendum, we face a time of great national change. And I know, because we're Great Britain, that we will rise to the challenge. As we leave the European Union, we will forge a bold, new, positive role for ourselves in the world. And we will make Britain a country that works not for a privileged few, but for every one of us. That will be the mission of the government I lead, and together we will build a better Britain.
The British way, of course, is to drive to Buckingham Palace, to be asked by Her Majesty to form the government. Respect duly paid, it didn't look as though the Queen had decided to look elsewhere for the successor to David Cameron. It was goodbye from him and his family, evicted because he lost the big bet of his life, that we would vote to stay in the EU.
It's not been an easy journey, and of course we've not got every decision right. But I do believe that today our country is much stronger. Above all, it was about turning around the economy, and with the deficit cut by 2/3, 2.5 million more people in work, and 1 million more businesses, there can be no doubt that our economy is immeasurably stronger.
Not everyone agrees we're strong enough to cope with the economic shock of leaving the EU, though most were with him when he said this.
I want to thank my children, Nancy, Elwyn and Florence, for whom Downing Street has been a lovely home over these last 6 years. They sometimes kick the red boxes full of work. Florence, you once climbed into one before a foreign trip and said, "Take me with you." Well, no more boxes.
He achieved his lifetime ambition of leading the country, but still young at 49, may not yet have come to terms with his first big failure.
It has been the greatest honour of my life to serve our country as Prime Minister over these last 6 years, and to serve as leader of my party for almost 11 years. And as we leave for the last time, my only wish is continued success for this great country that I love so very much. Thank you.
Goodbye from them, and earlier, a very different goodbye.
Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. Other than one meeting this afternoon with Her Majesty the Queen, the diary for the rest of my day is remarkably light.
Before I ask him the last question, could I just put it on record and wish him well as he leaves this office, and also to wish his family well, Samantha and their children, because I think we should all recognise that whilst many of us really do enjoy our jobs and our political life, it's the loved ones nearest to us and our families that actually make enormous sacrifices that we may be able to do this. So I'd also like him to pass on my thanks to his mum for her advice about ties and suits and songs. It's extremely kind of her, and I'd be grateful if he'd pass that on to her personally.
I've done a bit of research, Mr. Speaker. I have addressed 5,500 questions from this dispatch box. I'll leave it for others to work out how many I've answered. I will certainly send his good wishes back to my mother. He seems to have taken her advice and is looking absolutely splendid today. But it gives me the opportunity to put a rumour to rest as well, even more serious than the Strictly Come Dancing one. And he'll appreciate this because El Gato, his cat, is particularly famous. And the rumour that somehow I don't love Larry. I do. And I have photographic evidence to prove it.
And what, in his time as Prime Minister, is he proudest of? Perhaps not what you'd guess.
I'll never forget the day, actually, at number 10, when one of the people who works very close to the front door said to me, I'm not that interested in politics, Mr. Cameron, but because of something your lot have done, I'm able to marry the person I've loved all my life this weekend. And that was, there are many amazing moments in this job, but that actually was one of my favourites.
And then an old warrior said he hoped it could be au revoir rather than adieu.
Speaker, can I first of all join with all those in thanking the Prime Minister for the statesmanlike leadership that he's given to our party and to the country for the last 6 years. As no two people know what Brexit means at the moment, we need his advice and his statesmanship as much as we ever have.
But tonight she was turning to others for the advice and statesmanship needed to get us through the difficult weeks and months of Brexit. As expected, Philip Hammond was removed from the Foreign Office to replace the sacked George Osborne as Chancellor. And guess who's replacing Hammond as Foreign Secretary? Yup, Boris Johnson wasn't out in the cold for long. Robert Peston, News at 10.